The power is in the mic switch.
Is there any outlet up there?
Oh, like an outlet for what, like a normal kind.
If we have to plug in something on that thing.
Oh, yeah. I think we have outlets. What were you looking to plug in exactly? Oh, like a charger? Yeah.
It's on hold possibly because of the.
But do any of those floor ports have power, or is it just?
Yeah, there's like normal like outlets. You mean like just like a three prong or like just like a
They're behind the podium.
Yeah, there are a couple. Maybe not behind the podium, but under the podium. What do you do for that? Do you need it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see. I think there's a few outlets around here. Also, if he wants it, I do have a portable charger. But if not, then let's take a look.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's
There's an outlet down here.
cool. And would there be one in that one as well?
I believe so. I think these ones are just like regular outlets. Yeah. Cool. So if he does need it. Let's see what time is he coming by. Hello again. I know. How's it going today?
Good. Probably gonna be a little more chaotic later, but all cool.
The vibes. Also, oh god. No, yeah, wrong word. Handhold.
Morning, everyone. From the very beginning of this Congress, House Democrats have made clear that we are willing to find common ground with our Republican colleagues on any issue that would make a difference in the lives of the American people whenever and wherever possible. At the same time, we've also made clear that we will push back against Republican extremism whenever necessary. And right now, Republican extremism is rearing its ugly head. They are wasting time and taxpayer dollars in an illegitimate impeachment inquiry when we're about 48 hours away or so from an extreme MAGA Republican government shutdown. And this is what they're focused on? An illegitimate impeachment inquiry, as opposed to doing the business of the American people, which is quite simple. Live up to the agreement that you negotiated and that more than 300 members of the House of Representatives voted in the affirmative on, along with a strong bipartisan group of United States senators, then sending a bill to President Biden's desk. We have a bipartisan bill right now working its way through the United States Senate. It will pass in a strongly bipartisan way. Democrats and Republicans in the Senate doing the responsible thing to fund the government in a way that makes a difference for the American people. They will then send that bill to the House of Representatives, where the extreme MAGA Republicans face a clear choice. Put the bipartisan continuing resolution on the floor of the House for an up or down vote, and we can avoid the extreme MAGA Republican shutdown and end this nightmare being visited upon the American people by Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. Or fail to put the bipartisan continuing resolution sent over from the Senate on the floor of the House for an up or down vote, because your objective, apparently, as extreme MAGA Republicans, is to shut the government down. That's their objective. Unless they force the American people to absorb their draconian extreme right-wing ideology. This is a government shutdown that may occur being visited upon the American people because they want to cut Social Security, slash public school funding, and criminalize abortion care. That is what the theatrics of this week is all about. There's no reason for us to be considering bills that have no support in terms of passage in the United States Senate, because the Senate actually is working on bipartisan legislation. What the extreme MAGA Republicans are effectively saying to us, unless you cut Social Security, slash public school funding, criminalize abortion care, and do a whole host of other extreme right-wing things that they want to jam down the throats of the American people, we're shutting down the government. That is what this whole situation is all about. It's reckless, it's extreme, it's irresponsible. But it's their playbook. We've seen this horror show before. Saw it in the 1990s when the Republicans shut the government down because they wanted to slash Medicaid. We saw it in 2013 when the Republican extremists shut the government down because they wanted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. We saw it in 2019, beginning in December of 2018, when for 35 days Republicans shut the government down because they wanted the American taxpayer to waste billions of dollars on Trump's medieval border wall. We've seen this horror show before, and it's playing out again, an extreme MAGA Republican shutdown. And so we have a simple request of the Republicans in the House. when a bipartisan continuing resolution comes over from the Senate today, tomorrow, this weekend, put the bill on the floor for an up or down vote so we can end this MAGA Republican nightmare. And if you don't, you own this government shutdown. Questions?
Do you believe Senator Menendez should resign?
I think that the allegations that have been made against the senator are deeply troubling and should shock the conscience of the people in New Jersey and people all across the country. But the senator is entitled to the presumption of innocence as well as his day in court. At the end of the day, his fate will be decided by a jury of his peers. Yet it's hard for me to see how the senator can effectively, at this moment, represent the people he's ably served for decades in New Jersey.
So is that a yes? Just want to clarify.
That's my answer.
Do you think Democrats should use the discharge petition to move the Senate CR through the House?
I think we need the so-called moderate Republicans to partner with us, break away from Marjorie Taylor Greene and the extremists in order to end the extreme MAGA Republican shutdown effort. All options are on the table procedurally in terms of avoiding a shutdown. House Democrats stand ready. We have a bipartisan bill that does three things that we have said are important for the American people. One, continue funding at the fiscal 2023 levels. Two, no extreme Republican right-wing policy amendments that want to criminalize abortion care, attack the LGBT community, blow up efforts to make sure that our military is diverse and ready, willing, and able to continue to do the job that they so wonderfully do. But instead, we have efforts like stripping away the Secretary of Defense's salary and dropping it down to $1, and they all support it. These are partisan political games that they're playing. The continuing resolution in the Senate didn't have any of that nonsense. No partisan policy amendments that aren't designed to promote the health, safety, or well-being of the American people. They are designed to jam an extreme right-wing Republican ideology down the throats of the American people forcibly. No policy amendments that have nothing to do with funding the government. And three, make sure that we provide funding for the needs of the American people, particularly in the context of helping those everyday Americans who've been hit hard by hurricanes or wildfires and extreme weather events, and also making sure we lift up our national security in the context of continuing to support the valiant, brave, courageous Ukrainian war effort. That's what the bipartisan bill in the Senate does. And there's a simple way out of this extreme MAGA Republican shutdown. Put that bipartisan continuing resolution on the floor of the House as soon as it comes up for an up or down vote. And we can end this extreme MAGA Republican shutdown crisis, and all options should be on the table for us in terms of doing that. But we need the so-called moderates who've done nothing but continue to bend the knee to Trump and the extremists, this whole Congress, to break with their extremists, join us, and do the right thing for the American people.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. First, I just want to congratulate you on receiving the CBC's Body Award at the Phoenix Awards last weekend. But back to the shutdown, can you just paint the picture of how serious the impacts will be for Black and brown and low-income communities if a shutdown were to occur?
Well, a shutdown will be devastating for Black communities, Latino communities, Asian American communities, communities of color, but it will be devastating for all Americans, white, Black, Latino, Asian, Native American, whether you are in urban America, rural America, small town America, the heartland of America, suburban America, Appalachia. Shutdown will devastate parts of the economy, and that will have an adverse impact on everyday Americans, particularly those struggling right now, including in communities of color. It will impact the ability to provide for the type of basic services that are needed to uplift the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people. It will impact the ability to travel. It will impact the ability adversely to deal with your Social Security eligibility or any issues that you may be having in terms of the Social Security checks that so many older Americans rely upon moving forward. The consequences and the impacts of a total government shutdown will be devastating for everyday Americans, which is why it's so reckless that House Republicans are marching us in this direction, when all they have to do is, yes, put a bill on the floor for an up or down vote that comes over from the Senate that will be bipartisan in nature, and keep the agreement that they themselves negotiated with respect to top-line spending numbers for the country moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks. Second row.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. I want to ask, you've had a good working relationship with Speaker McCarthy throughout most of his Congress, I'd say. Would you say your relationship has shifted, and do you sympathize at all in the position he's in with some of his right flank that he's dealing with?
Well, I sympathize with the American people who are dealing with a situation where we as members of Congress should be focused, as Democrats are, on solving problems on behalf of hardworking American taxpayers, lowering costs, fighting for better paying jobs, safer communities, building an economy that is healthy from the middle out and the bottom up, putting people over politics. That's the type of government that the American people deserve. The leadership of President Biden, House Democrats, Senate Democrats are committed to continuing to do that, to put people over politics. But the extreme MAGA Republicans are doing the exact opposite. They're putting politics over people and marching us toward this government shutdown because they want to do bad things, like cut Social Security, slash public school funding, criminalize abortion care. It's in their defense bill, and it's in the agriculture bill. And we're wasting time on this reckless, partisan, ideological, legislative joyride. So there is sympathy that House Democrats, myself and others feel. It's for the American people. Not because of the Republican Civil War. That's not for me or anyone else to work out. But they should end this Civil War because it's adversely impacting and hurting the American people.
Thanks. There are a few New York Republicans. Mr. Lawler, for example, says he's willing to work with Democrats, get something done to avoid this. Any conversations you've had? Any possible exit strategies? I suspect there's federal workers who, like any life raft, they could find.
There is zero evidence that Mike Lawler or any of the so-called moderate Republicans in New York or anywhere else throughout this nation are willing to work with House Democrats to end this extreme MAGA Republican shutdown crisis. Zero evidence. Because there's a discharge petition that is live at this very moment that has 213 Democratic signatures. that is a vehicle that is available right now to end the extreme MAGA Republican government shutdown crisis. And the Republicans are missing in action, nowhere to be found. Talk a good game, but nowhere to be found. On a discharge petition, that is an available vehicle, among other options that we might have accessible to us to end the shutdown crisis. As I mentioned from the very beginning, we are ready, willing, and able to find common ground with House Republicans to make life better for everyday Americans in any way possible. But we need willing partners. And those partners may talk a good game, but they are missing in action. And every single time they've had an opportunity to do the right thing, instead of standing up for the American people, they joined Marjorie Taylor Greene and the right-wing extremists in voting against the interests of the American people. That same group talks a good game, voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the extreme MAGA Republicans to criminalize abortion care. The same group that talks a good game voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the extreme MAGA Republicans to put polluters over people. The same group that likes to talk a good game voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the extreme MAGA Republicans to cut government funding by north of 20% as part of their effort to threaten America with a catastrophic default on our nation's debt for the first time in American history in a manner that would crash the economy. Every single opportunity these so-called moderate Republicans have had to partner with Democrats in a bipartisan way and do the right thing for everyday Americans, they join Marjorie Taylor Greene and the extremists. And yet we stand ready to partner with them this time around. But the onus is on them. Don't talk about it, be about it. That's what we say in Brooklyn.
Sir, do you expect any Democrats to support the stopgap funding bill that the Speaker is going to put on the floor later this week?
No.
What's the issue with it? Is it the border initiatives, the H.R. 2?
So there is a bipartisan agreement that meets the needs of the American people, that would keep the government open, that is working its way through the Senate, that continues spending at the fiscal 2023 level, that is free of any extreme policy, partisan, poison pill riders, and that funds the effort to provide disaster relief to Americans who've been hit by extreme weather events and supports our continuing effort and that of the free world in standing behind the Ukrainian people. That is the only continuing resolution that should be put before the House for an up or down vote. Anything else is an effort to march us toward a government shutdown if we are unwilling to pay their ransom note. That's their ransom note. Cut Social Security, slash public school funding, criminalize abortion care. That is their ransom note. That's why we're going through this exercise. That's why I'm pretty confident that any partisan CR, which, by the way, decimates the Social Security Administration. And why would they do that when they know that tens of millions of seniors rely on Social Security? It's because they want to cut Social Security. And in order to cut Social Security, what would you do? Blow up the Social Security Administration. That's what their partisan continuing resolution would do. And that's why I'm pretty confident that not a single Democrat would join their extreme MAGA Republican efforts to cut Social Security and adversely impact tens of millions of older Americans across the country.
cinema about some sort of border policy that could be included in a CR, does that represent some level of progress to you on getting something bipartisan?
No.
Why is that?
It simply doesn't. I mean, it's laughable at this moment, at the 11th hour. If Kevin McCarthy or the extreme MAGA Republicans want to land this plane, presumably the individuals that the extreme MAGA Republicans in the Congress should be talking to are Leader Chuck Schumer and Leader Mitch McConnell, who, by the way, are working together to advance a bill that would avoid a government shutdown. Now, if Kevin McCarthy or any of the extreme MAGA Republicans want to have policy conversations about dealing with the many issues that the American people are confronting, we've had a very good communicative relationship, and I expect that that will continue. Positive, forward-looking, open, and honest. And I expect that that will continue. But we've also made clear that we will continue to agree to disagree on a variety of issues. And on this particular issue, the only responsible thing to do is to put the bipartisan continuing resolution that comes out of the Senate on the House floor for an up or down vote and avoid the extreme MAGA Republican government shutdown. Third row? Second row, okay.
Thank you.
I'll make sure I get to you as well.
A lot of what we've been talking about, if not the majority of it, has been funding the government for the short term to avert a shutdown. It looks like we're heading to a shutdown, in which conversations will start about funding the government, reopening it for the short term. A lot of this is just the short-term conversation, and as much as we're seeing House Republicans try and pass these full-year appropriation bills, they're going to be dead in the Senate. There's this bigger question about funding the government for the full year. What are those conversations among Democrats? Because, sure, if we fund the government for the short term, we could be in the same position in 1 month and shutting down and shutting down. So I guess my question to you is, what are leaders right now, if you are having conversations with Senate leaders and possibly McCarthy about the bigger picture here, trying to make sure the government is actually functional for a full year?
Well, as House Democrats, we have full and complete and total confidence in the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, Rosa DeLauro, who has led us up until this point in an extraordinary way, was involved in the conversations with her Senate counterparts with respect to the bipartisan continuing resolution that is pending floor action in the Senate right now, and will continue to take the lead moving forward, hopefully when we avoid this extreme MAGA Republican government shutdown, because the continuing resolution that is under discussion would extend the funding from October 1st through November 17th. It's about a 6-week period of time, and that will actually give the appropriators the ability to sit down and have thoughtful, comprehensive conversations about fully funding the government moving forward for fiscal year 2024. And the sooner we can get to those conversations, the better off the American people will be. And the only obstacle right now to the appropriators sitting down, House Democrats, House Republicans, Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans, and having a conversation about fully funding the government for the next fiscal year, the only obstacle is the extreme MAGA Republican effort to shut down the government. And once we get clear of that, I think there's a easily discernible path forward to do what's right for the American people in the context of the upcoming fiscal year. Thanks. Last two questions? Yeah.
If there were to be a motion to boycott, would House Democrats help Speaker McCarthy? And would they ask for any kind of concessions, considering the fact that McCarthy and House Republicans have went back on their word in the deal they made during the debt ceiling?
Yeah, we haven't given any thought to how to handle a hypothetical motion to vacate because we are entirely focused on making sure that we avoid this extreme MAGA Republican government shutdown. That will have devastating consequences for the American people. And we're going to push back over the next few days on their efforts to cut Social Security / public school funding and criminalize abortion care. We're going to push back against those efforts with every single ounce of energy that we have. And that's where our focus is right now. Avoid this catastrophic, extreme MAGA Republican government shutdown. Do the business of the American people. Put people over politics. Build a healthy economy. And stop with the political gamesmanship that is coming from the side of the aisle, which includes this illegitimate impeachment inquiry that is not going to yield a scintilla of evidence that President Biden engaged in any wrongdoing, because there is no evidence that President Biden engaged in any wrongdoing, and my Republican colleagues know it. It's all a distraction. So we have given no thought, have been no caucus discussions on the motion to vacate issue, because that's political gamesmanship that is part of the Republican Civil War. Not our business.
Momentum seems to be building in the Senate. I'm sorry if you're already asked about this, but momentum seems to be building in the Senate to have an amendment attached to the CR that would address border security. They do want to do something in a bipartisan manner. I'm wondering, is there anything out there related to border security that you can see Democrats and Republicans agreeing on as sort of a last way to actually avoid going into a shutdown?
There is only one clear way to avoid a shutdown, which is for whatever bipartisan bill comes out of the Senate to put it on the House floor for an up or down vote. Now, in the context of the discussions around border security funding, any starting point for those discussions, in my view, should relate to the supplemental funding requests made by President Biden and the Biden administration, and I assume that that is the starting point for any conversations that are underway right now. Thank you, everyone.